like we talked about on the show, you were a much bigger fan of his music than I was.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think he represented. I know there were no doubt in you. I think you're one of them. People who were huge fans of his music, but I think people were also fans of him as a person and what he was about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it definitely I think that's some of what we're seeing, like a response to, like, you see this in a lot of places. I mean, basically you can sum it up to people feel like he was a real person.
Yeah.
Now real has a lot of different meanings. I think Nipsey was somebody who was real in all sorts of meanings, right? Like he's somebody who made a lot of money. He's married to someone who has also made some money.
Yeah.
He didn't need to be at his clothing store, but he wanted to be at his clothing store because he believed in trying to might be just him, one person at a time, but in trying to better the community that he came from.
Yep.
Not everybody does that.
Correct.
I don't fault people who don't do that, but I don't fault people who do.
Correct. I agree. I agree.
I think when you come from trauma, and that can mean a lot of different things, but like I think honestly, it's like there really truly are, like, there's two different kinds of people, right? There's the kind of people who look at, if you've made it and if you've made it out, quote unquote, out of some traumatic experience, whether that's living in an abusive home, whether that's growing up in the hood, whether that's whatever it is, right? There's two types of people who look at that and go, that is systematically messed up. Me as a person will never fix that problem. And what I need to do is get as far away as possible so that it can never touch me again.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are the other people who go, this is systematically messed up and the system can never fix it. We're going to have to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And they stay.
Mm-hmm.
I lean towards the former, but I don't fault anybody who believes the latter at all.
Mm.
And I think Nipsey believed the latter for 100% for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really, it's interesting. I was thinking about how many rappers who got killed in their own neighborhood. So X got killed in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Was that part of Florida his neighborhood, or was that just like where he moved, or was he relatively close? Or
that's a good question. I don't really know.
Okay, maybe I don't feel like looking for it, but maybe one of our listeners can let us know how close he was. I should just text my daughter. Stack Bundles killed in Far Rockaway. I believe Freaky Tah was killed in Queens as well. Maybe the most infamous of all, Big L, killed in Harlem. I thought about some of the other artists. Is it a flex, as the youth say, to stay in the environment? Because I think what Nipsey was doing was different, because Nipsey was trying to actually like raise property value, buy real estate,
right?
Really better the community financially, versus, Big L, Stack Bundles, other people who were killed. Like, I'm not going to sit up here and say they didn't do anything, because I don't know, but they definitely weren't doing that. But is that one of those, like, it's one of those hip hop things where like, yo, I'm good anywhere, I'm good at home, the streets love me, yada, 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 yada. And all it takes is one person. Like, sure, the streets love you, your neighborhood loves you, but there's one person. And that's all it takes, who has enough courage juice to get you because you're at home. Doc, how are you when you're at home? Your shoes are off, your feet are up. So if that, for some people, I'm sure, Doc, you're not running up and down your street saying like, this is my block. But
I mean, I whisper, this is my block. No, I'm just kidding.
Now at the neighborhood watch meetings, you're like, yes, this is my block. And
we don't have neighborhood watch meetings. I don't live in that kind of neighborhood watch.
Does that still exist?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of something called Next Door?
Maybe.
Oh my God. If you want to know who the racist people are who live near you, go on Next Door. because it's a bunch of, but you have to like prove that you like live in like your neighborhood, and they sort of assign you to your neighborhood or whatever. And then it's basically people who are like, hey, I saw some youths out and about. Watch out. It's like imagine if you took like Neighborhood Watch and crossed it with Facebook. It's terrible. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, is it something to brag on when you're like, yo, I'm in my hood, I got all my jewelry on, I'm in my new ride, I'm yada yada, blah blah blah, like, you know, just in general, this fascination that rappers have, because remember when 50 Cent said F the hood, like that was a big deal. He was the first rapper that was like, yeah, I'm getting rich and I'm not coming back. Like he actually said it.
I think historically there's absolutely lionization of those who never forget where you came from, right?
Right.
I think about Nas and the scene in Belly where he goes back to Queensbridge, right?
Yeah.
But like, can I get really nerdy for a second here? So
sure, please.
I wonder how much of that is reactive and how much of that is proactive, I guess is what I'm trying to say. What I really mean to say is, so like we know from social science, from statistics, that overwhelmingly people of color, when they are at a certain income bracket, if they are buying property, they end up in neighborhoods that are often less nice. I mean, to put a word on it, but you know, lower property values, lower school scores, etc., less nice than a white person making the same amount of money. Right? There are lots of like historical, systematic reasons for that, right? We could talk about redlining and real estate. We can talk about urban renewal and how that was targeted in neighborhoods. And we could talk about all sorts of stuff. But for a very long time in this country, and there's still lots of, I mean, some of it's casual, some of it's not so casual, racism and systematic oppression that aims people of color towards living in neighborhoods that have other people of color in it. So, you know, if you're a doctor and you make $200,000 a year, and if you're African American, you're more likely to live in a neighborhood that has people making like $50,000 a year than you are to live in a neighborhood with other people of your same socioeconomic status, right? So just across the board, nothing to do with hip hop or anything like that, but just across the board, it is very difficult in America for people of color to live, to actually, if you came out of poverty, you are more likely, even if you quote unquote make it, or even if you came out of poverty and you got a college degree and you've got a good job, you got some bills, but you do, like if you're middle class, you are more likely to still be basically around the corner from the hood, more or less. We have systematically made it difficult in this country for people of color to escape that, even if they wanted to. So then what I wonder, and I'm sure maybe we have some social scientists who listen to this show. If so, shout out to y'all. You do great work. But like, I don't know. I'd be speculating, but I'm asking, like, so is this desire to like prove that you've never left? Some of that is definitely like, I think in American, we don't like elites in this country. We like famous people, but we don't like snobby people.
Yes.
So there is definitely like an American thing about, oh, I'm authentic. I'm real. That's very American. And I wonder how much of this is like when you take that and you combine it with systematic real estate oppression, is that how you get to this sort of notion of, I didn't leave the hood, I stayed around? Or is it more than that? You know what I mean? I don't know, but all I wanted to say about that long digression I just went on is like, there's more to it than just, I'm trying to be real, I'm trying to be authentic, or I didn't leave. There's a lot to that. You know what I mean?